What is going on, everyone? How's it going? Thanks for joining me. Love having you. It's great seeing your faces today. By faces I mean the camera lens that I'm looking directly at right now, and that was stupid and I will never make that joke again. Alright, on to the topic. So, I've been trying to make this video for like 3 or 4 weeks now. I tried getting some shots, but it's a little bit too rainy out here, and my stuff is getting wet. You guys can't tell, but like it's really starting to get wet. What I'm gonna do is come back tomorrow. Hopefully it's not like super crazy.
What's going on, y'all? We are back.
I think today went pretty well. We got some cool shots, talked about frame rates, except the footage was garbage. First time I went to the waterfall place and I took a bunch of video, and then I got it in and the footage looked really, really bad. I thought maybe it was something that I did, like settings or something. Went back, took a video again at a different location with different settings, and I'm thinking this time, I got this. It's gonna be great, no problem. Took the video, looked good on camera, got into the computer, it looked like garbage a second time. So I was like, all right, I must be really dumb or something, because something's going on here. Like, this is not right. So I watched a couple of videos and I changed some settings. I just want to clarify that I was doing this on the FUJIFILM. I changed some settings, watched the video, and I was like, all right, there's no way this is going to be wrong this time. Like I said, I'm perfect. Went back, took it again, same thing, absolute garbage like content. I have no idea what was going on. So eventually I started asking some people if they've had this issue as well on the X-T3. Nobody could, I couldn't even find it on Google. I was like, what is this? Turns out that there was something going on with the encoding process, and that had something to do with the board on the computer and like communication between it and the sensor. So there's some like weird issue going on. So I did send it to Fujifilm. They, checked it out, fixed it, sent it back to me, and now here we are attempting to make this video again. Well, let's get to it, shall we? Let's go. So we're finally here, back at, oh my God, make sure nobody's bike falls. God, that would have been bad. Okay guys, so today what we're gonna be talking about is frame rates. And that's important because when you're trying to figure out the best cinematic video settings for your camera, you have to understand frame rates. Now, there's gonna be a combination between this and last week or a couple weeks ago's episode about exposure and how to set exposure. I'm gonna tie it all together. I'm gonna help you guys figure out what frame rates are, what frame rates you should be using, how to get the best cinematic settings, and we're gonna tie it all together and yeah, have some fun. I said tie it all together like 9 times. I went to the first spot, everybody was like swimming in it. Looked like it was like one big family, so I don't want to bother them. There was another waterfall I walked down to, except it was a literal cliff to climb down, and I didn't feel like climbing down with all my cameras. So I went on the hunt for another little cool spot, and I found this.
It's pretty dope, if I do say so myself. I got the Fuji here, taking some vids.
We'll compare and then see what we come up with, and I'll explain to you guys all the stuff. In the meantime, I'm gonna finish doing this and then go find a quieter place so that we could actually have a conversation about this. All right? So I will see you in 2 seconds. All right, I hope that there's no one sitting there. There's no one here.
And that is a cliff, my friends.
24p, why is it so special and why is it so cinematic? A little bit of history to start. Back in the day when they first started making film, they had to use physical film, for those of you that haven't been around that long, and it was kind of because they wanted to save money. Now it turns out that 24p just looks really, really good for cinema. It happened that it actually looked so good that the industry just stuck with it all these years. So what is a frame rate? A frame rate is basically how many pictures your camera is taking in 1 second. 24p is 24 pictures in 1 second. 60 is 60 pictures in 1 second. And 120 is 120 pictures in 1 second, which is what makes it so good for slow-mo, because you can slow that video down and you still get so many little frames and so many details. It just makes it look nice and smooth and beautiful and just awesome. Just love 120. It's just awesome. So how can we use that to make your video more cinematic? It's a few things that come together. So one thing that seems to confuse a lot of people, especially when you're coming from photo to video, is the shutter speed. If you haven't seen my video about exposure, you can check it out right here. It'll talk about shutter speed, ISO, and aperture, and how those things work together to give you the perfect exposure. Normally when we shoot, we use our shutter speed to set our exposure. You can't do that in video. When we're shooting at a certain frame rate, we're locked off. 1/double your frame rate. That's your shutter speed, and that's it. Why does it have to be locked? Why should I choose that? I mean, technically, you could choose a different shutter speed, and sometimes for creative choices, you would. But if you're looking for the most cinematic type of video, then you want it to be 1/double your frame rate, no matter what kind of frame rate you're shooting at. And what that gives you is a natural motion blur, and that's what gives it that cinematic feeling. If you're at 24 frames, that's 1/48 or 1/50. If you're at 120, that's 240 or 250. Your ISO kind of is what you use to expose, but you want to be careful with that because too high, as you know, is going to give you too much noise. And the other thing is the aperture. You don't really want to crank up your aperture to f16 and try and make a cinematic video. Everything is so sharp and in focus, you kind of lose your subject to the background. When you shoot wide open, sometimes there's way too much light coming in. So what I would say is get an ND filter, and that will definitely help you control your exposure, especially when you're shooting at wide open aperture like an f2 or an f2.8. Oh man, the sunlight really changed, right? The shadows are gone, the lighting is gone. Ugh, that sucks. Well, what about 60 frames and 120 frames? Well, when you play it back on a 24p timeline, you're basically getting 60p slow-mo or 120p slow-mo. Now, you see those commercials where you have water pouring into the cup and it's epic, and it's ice cubes and condensation. Yeah, all that stuff, that's shot at 1,000 frames per second. And it looks really, really good. But that goes back to the point that you use the frame rate that you need for that specific situation. And when we're talking about cinema, everything needs to be at 24 frames per second. Unless it's broadcast or something, like the news, it's always gonna be at 24 frames per second timeline. So I'm gonna put up an example for you guys right here. As you can see, you've got 24 on the left, 60 in the middle, and 120 on the right. Now you can see the differences in motion. In the 24 frames per second, you're getting pretty decent motion blur. And then 60p is just a little bit slower, and then 120p is nice and smooth and slow. So now we know what these different frame rates look like on a 24p timeline. Now you're asking, what frame rate should I choose? Well, that's kind of up to you. But if you're shooting at 24, that's gonna associate cinematic more than anything else, because you already see these movies at 24 frames. I messed up.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I got distracted. I lost my train of thought. Oh man. Okay, so quick recap before we go. Timeline, 24 frames per second. Shooting, 24, 60, or 120. Always take it back to 24 frames per second. Make sure you have an ND filter. If you don't already have one, it'll make your life 100 times easier. And try to stay between, 1.8 to 2.8 to give you kind of good separation between the background and your subject too. It looks great. So once again, thanks for watching. If you like this video or you feel like it brought you some kind of value or you learned something, please hit the like button. It does so much and it goes such a long way with the algorithm of YouTube. And if you like this kind of stuff, maybe consider subscribing. Hit the bell button, and you'll be notified every time I put up a video. All right, guys, with that said, I'm getting out of here. See ya. I really love you guys that stay till the end, to the very, very, very end, because honestly, that means a lot that you guys are supporting this channel like that. All right, guys, you guys have a good day. Love you guys. Take care. Peace.
Bye.